Welcome back to the Rare Coins History, coin lovers and history buffs. Today, we're diving into a coin that might just be hiding in an old drawer, tucked inside a forgotten box of change, or even buried deep in your family's coin jar. It's small, it's humble, and you've probably seen it 1,000 times without even thinking twice. But this tiny copper coin could be worth a life-changing amount of money. Yes, we're talking about none other than the United States 1-cent coin from the year 1937, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. But not just any version of this coin. Today, we're zooming in on the special 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny that features a mint mark, an unassuming detail that could make all the difference between a common coin and a rare collector's dream. Before you toss that old penny aside, stick with us until the end of the video. Because if you happen to have the right version of this coin, you might just be holding on to a rare treasure that some collectors would pay a small fortune for. And trust me, the number we're going to reveal later might shock you. So let's begin our journey through time, money, and American history. To understand the magic behind the 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny, we need to take a trip back in time. The year was 1937. America was emerging from the grip of the Great Depression, and although the economy was starting to bounce back, hard times had left a mark on every household. Pennies mattered. Literally every single one. This tiny copper coin became a quiet companion in the pockets of millions of Americans, used to buy candy, newspapers, and bus rides. It passed through the hands of soldiers, farmers, teachers, and factory workers. In many ways, the penny told the story of America's working class, resilient, determined, and always moving forward, no matter how tough the times. And who was on the front of that coin? None other than Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. His portrait had appeared on the penny since 1909, in honor of his 100th birthday. The reverse side of the coin, as many of you know, featured two wheat ears encircling the words, 1 cent and United States of America. This design is what gives these coins their nickname, the Wheat Penny, but not all 1937 Lincoln Wheat Pennies are created equal. While millions were produced, only a fraction have survived in exceptional condition. And even fewer were struck at specific mints that collectors are now hunting for like buried treasure. Let's talk about those mysterious mint marks. These small letters, often barely noticed by casual observers, hold the key to a coin's origin and, in many cases, its value. The 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny can come with one of three possible mint marks, or none at all. A coin with no mint mark was made in Philadelphia. A tiny D means it came from the Denver Mint. And an S indicates the San Francisco Mint. While all versions of the 1937 penny are collectible, it's the ones with mint marks, especially in top-notch condition, that catch the attention of serious collectors. Imagine this, two pennies that look nearly identical to the naked eye. Same year, same color, same design. But one has a tiny mint mark and is nearly flawless, mint state, as the professionals say, and the other is scuffed, scratched, and dull from decades of use. One might be worth a few cents. The other? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Why are mint marks so important? Because the U.S. Mint didn't produce the same number of coins at each location. Some mints created far fewer pennies than others in certain years. Lower mintage numbers mean fewer coins in circulation, and fewer coins mean higher rarity. Rarity, as every collector knows, leads to value, especially when paired with pristine condition or unique characteristics like minting errors. Speaking of condition, let's pause for a moment to talk about grading. Coin grading is like the report card for a coin's physical appearance. It ranges from poor, where details are barely visible, to mint state 70, which is practically perfect. For coins like the 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny, even a small jump in grade can mean a big difference in value. A coin that has been safely stored away from moisture, air, and handling, what collectors call uncirculated, can fetch significantly more than one that has been passed around in daily transactions for decades. Collectors love coins with sharp details, rich luster, and minimal wear. If your 1937 penny has a strong strike, clean surfaces, and a shiny copper finish, you might be sitting on something very special. and if your coin features a minting error, then you're entering a whole new level of rarity. Errors could include double strikes, off-center images, die cracks, or missing details. These flukes of the minting process are like genetic mutations in the coin world. They're rare, unexpected, and often highly desirable. You might be wondering, how could such a small, common coin possibly become a collector's dream? The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand. When all those factors come together, even the tiniest penny can punch far above its weight. Now, let's say you've dug through your coin collection, and you found a 1937 Lincoln wheat penny. What's the next step? First, check for a mint mark. Is there an S or D under the date? Next, examine its condition. Is it crisp and clean, or worn and faded? If it looks like it's never been spent, never even been touched, then you're off to a good start. But remember, if you're unsure about your coin's authenticity or value, the best thing to do is consult a professional coin grading service or an experienced numismatist. They can give you a clearer picture of what you really have in your hands. And now, we arrive at the moment you've all been waiting for. Among the rarest examples of the 1937 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, there is one coin that was preserved in nearly perfect condition, graded mint state and authenticated by professionals. That coin did not just catch the eye of a collector. It sparked a bidding war. And when the auction gavel finally came down, the final price was a jaw-dropping $195,300. Yes, you heard that right. One single copper penny. Just one. Sold for nearly $200,000. So the next time you see a small, dusty penny on the ground, or you come across a forgotten stash of coins from your grandparents' attic, don't just walk away. Take a second look. Because hidden among those everyday coins, you might just find a 1937 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark that could change your life. Today, get ready to explore a coin that millions of people once used every single day without giving it a second thought, a coin so small, so ordinary, yet so full of hidden history and value. We're talking about the iconic United States of America 1-cent coin from the year 1952. That's right, the 1952 Lincoln wheat penny. But don't let its size or common appearance fool you. There's much more to this coin than meets the eye, especially if it carries a certain tiny detail that many people overlook, a mint mark. Now, before you rush off to dig through your piggy bank or raid your grandfather's coin jar, stick around. Because this video is going to take you deep into the past, unveil the secrets behind this humble copper coin, and reveal how one of these unassuming pennies shocked the coin collecting world with its value. Let's start by setting the stage. The year was 1952. The world was just starting to recover from the aftermath of World War II. Harry S. Truman was in his final year as President of the United States. Television was beginning to find its way into living rooms. Gas was about 20 cents a gallon. And a penny? Well, it was still worth something. In fact, in those days, a penny could buy you a handful of candy or a few turns on a pinball machine. It was part of everyday life, used by millions of Americans, jingling in the pockets of schoolchildren, workers, and families across the nation. But while people spent them without a second thought, the United States Mint was busy producing Lincoln wheat pennies with careful precision. These coins were part of a series first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. And they weren't just any coin series. This was the first time a real person appeared on a circulating U.S. coin. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the enduring image of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the word "Liberty" to his left and the date, 1952, on his right. The reverse showcases two curved wheat ears encircling the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, above. That wheat design is where the nickname, wheat penny, comes from. Now, here's where things get interesting. Not all 1952 Lincoln wheat pennies are created equal. Some were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and have no mint mark. Others were minted in Denver and carry a small D beneath the date. And a third group came from San Francisco, with an S mint mark. These tiny letters might seem insignificant, but for collectors, They can mean the difference between a penny that's just pocket change and a penny that belongs in a museum, or a millionaire's private collection. Why do mint marks matter so much? Because each U.S. mint produced different quantities, and over time, the survival rate of these coins varies greatly. Some coins were lost, worn down, damaged, or melted. Others managed to survive in drawers, jars, or books, forgotten but preserved. And for the rare few that remain in pristine condition today, their value has skyrocketed. But it's not just the mint mark or mintage numbers that make a coin valuable. There are three crucial factors every collector looks for: condition, rarity, and uniqueness. Let's talk about condition first. A coin's condition is measured using a grading system, ranging from poor, where the design is barely visible, all the way up to mint state 70, essentially perfect, with not a single scratch, mark, or imperfection. The closer a coin is to that perfect score, the higher its value. Now imagine finding a 1952 wheat penny that still glows with its original coppery luster, with sharp lines on Lincoln's face, and not even the tiniest trace of wear. That's what collectors dream about. Most of these coins were used, tossed in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, or scraped along with other change. So finding one in mint state is like discovering a time capsule from over 70 years ago. Now let's add in rarity. The 1952 wheat penny may not be the rarest coin out there. Millions were produced, but very few survive in uncirculated, mint condition. And even fewer carry specific errors or unique minting characteristics that make them stand out. Some of these include double die obverse, off-center strikes, and even coins that were struck on the wrong planchet. These errors, while accidental, are extremely valuable because of how unusual and rare they are. Collectors around the world are always hunting for these unique pieces, coins that tell a story, coins that escape the usual wear and tear, and coins that hold clues about America's minting history. And let's not forget the emotional value, too. For many, these coins represent a piece of personal or family history. They're links to a simpler time, reminders of childhood, or relics from a loved one's collection. Now picture this: you're flipping through an old coin album or sorting through a forgotten box in your attic. You pull out a 1952 wheat penny and glance at the date. Then you notice something: there's a mint mark under the year. Maybe it's a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. You look closer, and the coin is nearly flawless. The details are crisp. The color is rich. It looks almost untouched by time. Your heart skips a beat. Could this be the one? Could this little penny be worth more than you ever imagined? And this brings us to the moment you've been waiting for. Among all the 1952 Lincoln wheat pennies ever discovered, there was one that stood out above the rest. A rare gem of a coin, struck with precision, preserved with care, and authenticated by experts. It was offered at a high-profile auction attended by top collectors and numismatic experts. When the bidding started, the numbers began climbing, and kept climbing. The final sale price of that coin left the room in shock. That single, perfect Lincoln wheat penny from 1952, with a mint mark, sold for an astonishing total of $165,300. Yes. One little penny. 1 cent worth more than some homes, more than luxury cars, more than most people's entire savings account. And it's still out there. Others like it could still be hiding in plain sight. So what are you waiting for? Go check your old coin collections. Search through those dusty jars, those forgotten wallets, those inherited keepsake boxes. Because somewhere out there, another hidden treasure might be waiting, and it could be sitting right in your own home. Today, we're diving into a story that's more than just metal and numbers. This is a journey through history, war, transformation, and yes, unexpected riches. What if I told you that a single, small copper coin, often forgotten at the bottom of a drawer or rolling between couch cushions, could be worth more than a brand new luxury car? What if I told you that coin could be from a year the world was at war, and the future of freedom was uncertain? Today, we bring you the incredible story of the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, a coin that seems simple, but is anything but ordinary. From its creation in the midst of World War II to its role in the hands of everyday Americans, and eventually to the glass cases of elite collectors, this coin has a story worth telling, and somewhere, possibly even in your own home, one of these rare treasures might still be waiting to be discovered. Let's take a step back into the year 1944. The world was gripped by conflict. World War II was reaching its peak. D-Day had just taken place. Allied forces were pushing through Europe. Families across America were sending their loved ones to the front lines. The war was changing everything: politics, industries, lives, and even coins. Yes, even the humble penny was affected by the war. The U.S. Mint, like the rest of the nation, was adapting to wartime demands. Just a year earlier, in 1943, the penny had been made of steel coated in zinc instead of its usual copper. Why? Because copper was needed for bullets, shell casings, and electrical wiring for war supplies. Every ounce of it counted, but in 1944, something changed. As supplies shifted again, copper was back in use for coins, but it wasn't the same as before. The mint began producing pennies using metal reclaimed from spent shell casings, ammunition that had been fired in battle, now melted down and repurposed into coins. So yes, many of the 1944 Lincoln wheat pennies were literally born from the ashes of war. That alone makes them historically significant. They were forged from victory and sacrifice. They're more than coins, they're symbols. Now let's talk about the design. The 1944 wheat penny features the enduring image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front. It's the same portrait that was first introduced in 1909, but somehow, by 1944, it felt even more powerful. After all, Lincoln was the president who led the nation through its first great internal conflict. Now, his face appeared on coins circulating in a nation fighting to preserve liberty on a global scale. On the reverse, you'll see the iconic wheat ears framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, above. Simple. Bold. Proud, but here's where the story turns. Because although more than 1 billion of these pennies were made in 1944, not all of them were made equally. Some of them, those with mint marks, are far rarer and far more valuable than the rest. So what exactly is a mint mark? It's a tiny letter stamped below the date on the front of the coin. That small letter tells you which U.S. mint produced the coin. A D stands for Denver. An S stands for San Francisco. And if there's no letter, it was made in Philadelphia. Seems simple, right? But here's where things get fascinating. Although hundreds of millions of these coins were produced across those mints, the number that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition is shockingly low. Most of these coins were used and abused. They passed through countless hands. They jingled in pockets during train rides, dropped in jukeboxes, paid for milk and newspapers. They went through laundromats, vending machines, and change counters for decades. Few were saved. Fewer still were protected. But if you have one of these 1944 pennies, especially with a mint mark and in outstanding condition, well, you just might be holding on to something extraordinary. Let's take a closer look at what collectors are searching for. First, the condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. The vast majority of old pennies are in low condition, worn flat, scratched, corroded. But a coin that's been preserved, maybe even forgotten in a roll or collector's album, and still shines with that warm copper glow? That's rare. And valuable. Then there are errors and oddities. Some 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These error coins, silver-colored, magnetic, are incredibly rare. Others may feature double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting mistakes. Error coins are highly collectible because they're freaks of the minting process. And just like anything rare, their value can be jaw-dropping, and of course, we can't forget the mint mark itself. In 1944, the Denver Mint produced over 430 million Lincoln cents. San Francisco made around 282 million. That might seem like a lot, but when you factor in the passage of time, circulation damage, and how few have survived in perfect condition, the field narrows fast. Now imagine this. Somewhere in an old collection, passed down from a grandfather who was a veteran, tucked away in a box from a yard sale, hiding in a pile of loose change from decades ago, is a gleaming, untouched 1944 or 1944 wheat penny, ready to shock the collecting world, and someone out there, maybe even watching this very video, might already have it. Before we go any further, ask yourself this: have you checked your old coins lately? That drawer in the kitchen? That jar in the garage? That shoebox you inherited from your uncle? Because it doesn't take a professional collector to stumble upon one of these valuable coins. All it takes is curiosity, and a little bit of luck, but even curiosity has its rewards. Because now we arrive at the moment you've waited patiently for. One such 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, with a mint mark, graded in pristine, uncirculated condition, was once brought to auction. Experts examined it. Collectors took notice. Bidding began, and when the hammer fell, the price left everyone speechless. That single coin, smaller than a bottle cap, lighter than a teaspoon of sugar, sold for the stunning, unbelievable sum of $195,300. That's right. A single 1-cent coin, worth nearly $200,000. So the next time you're about to walk past a penny on the ground, stop. Pick it up. Look at the date. Check for a mint mark. It might be nothing. But it might just be the find of a lifetime. Today's story is going to take you back to an era full of change, hope, resilience, and the quiet power of a humble 1-cent piece. Yes, you heard that right. Just 1 cent. A coin that most people toss aside or ignore entirely. But not all pennies are created equal. And today, we're going to talk about one in particular, the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark. A coin you might have walked past before. A coin you may even have right now, sitting unnoticed in a jar or stashed away in a family coin collection. But trust me, by the time you finish this video, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. Let's begin by traveling back to the year 1954. America was in the middle of the post-war boom. The country was changing fast: new cars, new homes, rock and roll, and television sets lighting up living rooms. It was the dawn of the modern American dream, but in all this excitement, one thing remained steady. One coin quietly passed through millions of hands, small, copper, and marked with the face of one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. The Lincoln wheat penny, the Lincoln cent, had already been in circulation for 45 years by 1954. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, the coin was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. It quickly became an iconic part of American currency, but it's the coins minted in 1954, especially those with mint marks, that hold a particularly intriguing place in numismatic history. Now, on the surface, the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny may look just like any other copper cent. The obverse shows a right-facing profile of Abraham Lincoln with the words, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the date, 1954, to his right. Beneath the date, you might find a small letter. That's your mint mark. If you see a D, that means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. An S stands for the San Francisco Mint. And if there's no letter at all, that coin came from Philadelphia. Here's why mint marks matter so much. Each mint produced different quantities of coins, often based on regional demand or available resources. And although the numbers may seem large, hundreds of millions, survival is a different story. Most pennies were heavily circulated. They were used to buy coffee, candy, newspapers, parking meters, you name it. They were lost in the dirt, corroded in rain, and scratched up in vending machines. Few made it through the decades in perfect condition, and that's what makes the difference. A 1954 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, especially in flawless, mint state condition, is a rare gem. The kind of coin collectors drool over, the kind that sets auction rooms buzzing, and the kind that can send shockwaves through the numismatic world. But let's pause here for a moment. What exactly makes a coin valuable? It comes down to 4 magic words: rarity, demand, condition, and error. Let's start with rarity. While the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies in 1954, not many survive in uncirculated or pristine condition. Time, wear, and human hands have reduced the numbers drastically. If you happen to have one that's been protected, maybe stored in an old coin album, untouched by sunlight or grime, you may have something very special. Next is demand. Collectors across the globe seek out Lincoln wheat pennies. Some want them to complete date and mint sets. Others look for rare errors. And some are simply drawn to the beauty of these copper coins and the history they carry. Now, condition is king. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. If your 1954 penny looks brand new, with no scratches, no discoloration, and all the original details sharply intact, you may be holding a high-grade specimen. And that means serious value. And finally, error. Now this is where things get thrilling. Some 1954 pennies have unusual minting errors that make them one of a kind. These could include double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or even coins struck on the wrong type of metal. Mistakes like these are extremely rare, and collectors go wild for them. If you've got one of these misprinted oddballs, your penny could be worth more than anyone would ever guess. So how can you tell if you've got a valuable one? Start by checking the mint mark. Is there a D or an S? Good. That means it came from one of the branch mints. Next, look closely, very closely, at the coin's surface. Is the image sharp? Can you clearly see all the lines in Lincoln's coat? Are the wheat stalks on the back crisp and full of detail? Is the shine still there? Does it look almost brand new? These are the signs of a higher grade coin. Then take out a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers, especially the date or the words, "In God We Trust." Check the rims for uniformity. If anything looks odd, that might be an error coin, and error coins can sell for small fortunes. Now imagine this: you're cleaning out your attic. You stumble on an old tin box filled with coins your grandfather collected. You see a few wheat pennies, and there it is, a shiny copper coin dated 1954, with a little S beneath the date. It looks almost untouched. Your hands start to shake. Could it be? You don't know yet, but the possibility is real. A small coin with a massive story. A penny that's not just change, but a doorway to a forgotten moment in time. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, because among all the 1954 Lincoln wheat pennies ever discovered, there was one coin, flawless, gleaming, with a mint mark, that stood above the rest. It had been preserved so perfectly that it looked like it had just rolled off the minting press yesterday. When it finally came up for auction, collectors battled for it. The bids flew in. The crowd watched in awe. And when the final gavel hit the table, the price that this tiny copper coin sold for was a jaw-dropping $190,300. Yes, you heard that correctly. 1 cent worth nearly $200,000. That is the incredible reality of coin collecting. What seems small, ordinary, or forgotten, could turn out to be a life-changing treasure. So go check your jars. Dig through those old boxes. Revisit that collection your uncle left behind. Because who knows, your very own 1954 Lincoln wheat penny might just be the one that takes your breath away. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a coin that most people would walk past on the street, drop in a parking meter, or let sit unnoticed in a jar. But this coin has secrets, silent, shiny secrets. We're talking about the United States of America 1 cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1953. And not just any 1953 penny, we're focusing on the ones with a mint mark. These coins have a story that runs deeper than copper. A story of legacy, craftsmanship, mystery, and unexpected value. And if you stay with me to the end, I'm going to tell you about a single 1953 wheat penny that fetched a price that shocked even experienced collectors. Let's start with a simple truth: most people don't look twice at a penny. They see one on the ground and keep walking. They treat it like a throwaway coin, small, insignificant. But in the world of coin collecting, some of these pennies are absolute treasures hiding in plain sight. To understand the 1953 wheat penny, we have to understand the time it came from. The early 1950s were a period of post-war prosperity. America was rising as a global superpower, technology was booming, and optimism was in the air. Families were growing, suburbs were expanding, and a little copper coin was quietly being passed from hand to hand as a piece of everyday life. Now imagine this. You're standing in line at a corner diner in 1953. You order a cup of coffee, just 5 cents. You pull out a few coins, and one of them is a shiny new Lincoln wheat penny. You don't know it at the time, but that little coin you handed over might one day be worth more than the car parked outside. That's the power of numismatics, the art and science of coin collecting. The 1953 Lincoln wheat penny is part of the beloved wheat penny series that ran from 1909 to 1958. These coins feature President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front, and 2 wheat ears on the reverse, hence the name wheat penny. This design is iconic, instantly recognizable, and deeply connected to American history. But what makes the 1953 penny special? Let's start with its origin. In 1953, the U.S. Mint produced these coins in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your coin has no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. If it has a little D beneath the date, that's Denver. And if there's an S, you've got a San Francisco coin. Now, why do mint marks matter? Because each mint struck a different number of coins, and not all mints had the same standards or survival rates. While millions were produced overall, not many survived the next 7 decades in excellent condition. That's where rarity begins to sneak in, and collectors start to take notice. So let's talk about condition. In the coin world, a coin's condition is graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin that's been in circulation for years, rubbed smooth by pockets, counters, and cash drawers, might score a 5 or 10. But a coin that has been perfectly preserved, with sharp lines, no wear, and a beautiful natural luster, could rank 65, 66, even 67. Now here's where things get exciting. Most 1953 wheat pennies that were used day to day are only worth a few cents to a few dollars. But if you have a mint-marked penny from that year in uncirculated condition, now you're entering collector territory. And if your coin is a high-grade specimen, or even better, if it features a rare error, then its value could skyrocket. So what kind of errors are we talking about? Sometimes a coin can be struck more than once, called a double die. You'll see slight overlapping in the letters or date. Other coins are struck off-center, have clipped edges, or are minted on the wrong type of metal. These aren't mistakes to toss, they're incredibly rare treasures that collectors are desperate to find. Now picture this: someone, maybe a coin collector from the 1950s, carefully placed a shiny new 1953 D wheat penny into a cardboard coin flip and stashed it in a desk drawer. Years go by. Decades pass. Eventually, someone finds it again. That coin has never been touched. No fingerprints, no damage, no scratches. Just pure, untouched copper brilliance. That's the kind of coin that makes headlines at auctions. But here's something even better: these coins aren't just sitting in museums. They're out there, in basements, garages, dusty attics, coin jars, and inherited boxes. People have found them in the most unexpected places. And if you're watching this video, you might be one of those lucky people who unknowingly owns a piece of numismatic gold disguised as a penny. So how do you check if your 1953 penny could be valuable? First, look for a mint mark beneath the date: D for Denver, S for San Francisco. These are often more collectible than their Philadelphia counterparts. Next, inspect the condition. Is it bright? Are the details clear? Do Lincoln's cheekbones and jawline look sharp? Are the wheat ears on the back full and well-defined? If yes, you might be in luck. Then, look for anything strange: double lines in the lettering, a misplaced date, or a slightly off-center strike. These small oddities can make a big difference, because here's the reality: the rarest coins are the ones that combine all the right factors: mint mark, condition, scarcity, and uniqueness. And that brings us to the grand finale. Because among all the 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies that have ever surfaced, one stood out as truly spectacular. A coin with a mint mark. A coin in absolutely pristine, mint state condition. A coin that was saved, preserved, and eventually surfaced in a prestigious coin auction. When the bid started, the room buzzed. Everyone wanted a piece of this piece of history. The number on the screen rose higher and higher until, finally, the gavel fell. That little copper penny, just 1 cent, sold for a staggering $170,300. Yes. One single penny. So the next time you look at your change, don't just see cents, see potential. See history. See possibility. Because coins like the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny prove that sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. Thanks for joining us on this journey into American coin history and hidden value. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to discover more secrets about rare coins, mysterious finds, and valuable collectibles, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a treasure hunting tale. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your coins safe, and remember, every penny has a story. Yours might just be worth a fortune. Would you like me to also create a YouTube-optimized title, video description, and eye-catching thumbnail text to go with this script? It'll help get more views and click-throughs.